Welcome to another edition of our Soccer Down Here virtual brewery tour. We do have plans to be back out at the breweries later this year. Fingers crossed, hopefully everything goes well to make that happen. One of the breweries I'm excited to return to, it's been a while since I've been over to Three Taverns in Decatur. We get a chance to catch up today with Nathan Berrong, the brand cultivator at Three Taverns. Nathan, thanks for hanging out with us.
Thanks for the opportunity, Jason. Yeah, good to see you through a screen, but still.
It's one of those things we're all getting used to, in this pandemic, is conversations over screens and technology instead of sitting at a bar and having a beer.
For sure.
So I wanted to ask you, when we were talking before we came on, we were talking about your role, and I love the title of brand cultivator. What exactly does that mean?
Yeah, so that role involves a lot of branding and marketing. It's a role that involves all of our social media, a lot of our website content, as well as press releases. There's a little bit of sales attached to it. I like to say we run a tight ship around here, which is that every employee has work to do. And so that, we kind of all wear a lot of different hats and collaborate a lot. And my role works closely with our sales department. I even look over a couple sales accounts as well. But mostly it's running the marketing and branding side of the brewery.
So how has that role been affected by this pandemic and all the changes to business in general? How has your job changed during this?
It hasn't changed a ton. Location-wise, it has. I work from home, did for once the pandemic began in March through part of June, and now I come into the brewery or the office 2 days a week. So location-wise, it's looked different. But trying to find ways to connect to our audience has changed as well. Our tasting room was closed for a bit, and we went to a to-go-only model, which worked really well for us. And now our patio is open, so our tasting room itself is still closed. But just kind of getting the word out about that, and then just having a little more time to connect with our audience. So it's a lot more commenting on social channels. It's really trying to communicate effectively of what our plans are, what we have coming up in terms of beers, what our plans are for reopening, all that kind of stuff. And then also just kind of making sure all of our accounts on premise and off premise know that we're, doing as best we can to kind of look out for them and seeing ways we can potentially lend a hand. So it hasn't changed a ton specifically for me. It's just, it's a much more online role now than at one time it was more sort of forward facing.
I've been blown away by how quickly everybody has pivoted during this. I mean, it's early in March, like 10 weeks into the year when everything changes. And, in your role, you've got to have plans and all kinds of details and events scheduled and all this stuff. And now to flip to the role that you have and communicating with people online and not seeing people. And like you said, going to a to-go model, which wasn't something you were necessarily doing in that way before. How impressed have you been with your team in coming together to make all that happen in such a short period of time?
Yeah, I mean, our tasting room staff really stepped up. It's led by Amy, who runs our tasting room, and then a couple employees, Kate and Jesse, who have really stepped up. And so, before the customer experience for us, when people were coming to experience the brewery, we're able to lend a lot of customer service. There's an experience attached to it in terms of what our tasting room looks like, sounds like, in terms of music, what it feels like, the warmth. And over the years, we've heard a lot of great feedback how our tasting room is very different than others in that it does have maybe a little more of a warmth. It's not like you're drinking in a warehouse. But that gets eliminated, right, from this. And so now our interactions with customers is, how can we, in a take-home to-go setting, what can that experience look like? We don't have a lot of time. A lot of times it's literally just sliding beer kind of through a makeshift window that we have. And so it really cuts down on the experience we wish for all of our customers. At the same time, we've tried to really pump out a lot of new beers and give something almost different every week for our customers so they can hopefully still have something to look forward to, and it's something different. And that's been really successful for us with our Sour Asylum series, just putting out almost a new one every single week, and the response to that's been overwhelming. When we sort of pivoted to that to-go model, we had no idea what to expect. We've always offered to-go beer, but to go to an only to-go beer model, we weren't really sure, and the response from our fans and supporters and customers has just been overwhelming. And so we've been able to maintain everything. We haven't had to have any layoffs of employees or furloughed or anything like that. So we've been really lucky and blessed there. And, it's definitely in part to our production that's just been working their ass off, and our tasting room staff that has been working their ass off as well. And just really everybody kind of giving it their all to make it work for all of us.
One of the big crossovers that I've found in the soccer and beer communities is community, and is that sense of a family kind of atmosphere. You guys have been involved with Resurgence from very early on in the Atlanta United lifespan. How did that relationship come about?
Yeah, so it's funny. Just a couple weeks ago, I was actually going through on Instagram, and I went to the Atlanta United account and realized I think I had tagged them maybe in something, and so it showed the message history, and I looked, and the first interaction I had with Atlanta United as a front office, as an organization, was over Instagram, and I think it was August 2016, so it was a good 8 months or so before the very first ever Atlanta United game, and I had sent them a message basically saying, hey, we're big fans of soccer here at the brewery. Our sort of history with soccer started with a beer called Prince of Pilsen that we did for at that time when we launched it, it was called Pils Monday All, and it was for the World Cup that was in Brazil. And so we brewed a beer for the World Cup, and so that was our first sort of foray into connecting our brewery with soccer. So we feel like it's kind of been in our DNA since the very beginning. And so back to that Instagram message, I just messaged and said, hey, we're big soccer fans here at the brewery, and we'd love to see if there's any way to kind of work together. And so months before the team even had its first game, we had Atlanta United staff come out and have kind of a tap takeover, if you will, at the brewery. So, we felt like we were with the team from the earliest stages of the process. And then as it got closer to the game's beginning, we wanted to get more connected and knew the way to do that was through a supporter group. And so one of our brewer and production guys named Taylor he was at the brewery at the time. He's since gone on into another industry, but he was a Resurgence member, and he early on got a membership with Resurgence. And so he connected us with Resurgence, and that was sort of how that happened. They had a few other breweries that I think they were sort of courting or talking to, and once they sort of found out our history with soccer, it was a good relationship. And so we've been with them, since the very beginning. And then from that, we did the beer Rowdy and Proud, which a lot of people associate with the team. It's funny, a lot of people think it's kind of the team beer. Obviously, it's not. It's more of just like us brewing a beer to show our love for the team. But that beer came about through Resurgence as well. One of the guys, Jesse Mendoza, in the group came up with the chant, created the chant, and we wanted to do a beer that connected us with Resurgence as well as kind of our love for the sport and for the team. And so Rowdy and Proud was born from that. And it's part of our year-round offering. We might pivot that in the future and make it sort of a soccer season only beer. But it's been successful for us, and we're just super excited about the team. And once the team actually started playing games and winning, it obviously had that trickle-down effect where everybody sort of got on board and got excited for it.
I'm sure that's got to be one of the things that you guys have been missing, is having those away game viewing parties at the brewery.
For sure, yeah. We, it seems like almost every single time I'm at the brewery and see our customers here, now that our patio's opened, where we have people come hang out and drink beers again. It's almost every single time we're open, there's without a doubt somebody in an Atlanta United jersey that's drinking a beer here. but yeah, we miss those watch parties for sure. And we have been lucky to have several of the players that'll come to the brewery and hang out and drink beers. So we're able to get the littlest bit of that vibe whenever we see someone in a jersey or have some of the players come to the brewery and hang out. But yeah, we miss it for sure. And I know I can speak for you and so many people that's connected to the team and the fan base. That Saturday's game was, I feel like all week I was just like waiting for that game. And even though there's no crowd and it's far away and it's a weird format, there was still such an excitement to just see those guys back out on the pitch. So we're, we'll take what we can get. We're glad there's games again for right now.
So you mentioned, your soccer history going back to 2014 at the brewery with a World Cup beer. You guys opened in 2013. How did everything come together with the launch of Three Taverns?
Yeah, so and really quick, you can't see it, but I brought a Rowdy and Proud with me, so I'm gonna start sipping on a beer if you're okay with that.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, so our founder and CEO is a guy named Brian Purcell. He had a vision to start a brewery well over 10 years ago now. It takes quite a while to get a brewery up and running, and especially at that time when the laws in Georgia made it really hard to get into market. And the original idea was a brewery that sort of tipped its hat to the Belgian brewing traditions. He fell in love with Belgian beer. That was kind of his entrance into craft beer, and it was my entrance into craft beer as well. And so that was kind of our motto from the beginning, was a brewery in the States, in Atlanta, in Decatur, that was brewing Belgian style beer. Our first brewmaster was a guy named Joran that moved over here from Belgium to take the position, had a history of brewing traditional Belgian ales. And so we did that for a few years. The Belgian beer market or trend in the United States started to sort of drop off a little bit not long after we launched. And so those first couple of years, it was honestly hard to get somebody at a bar in Atlanta to pick up a local Belgian beer and put it on draft. American craft beer was kind of the king and still is. And so at some point we sort of pivoted, and we did one of our flagships when we launched was called A Night in Brussels. And it was a Belgian style IPA. And we ended up basically brewing that same recipe, but with American yeast and more forward American hops, and called it A Night on Ponce, and that became our flagship. And so once that beer was brewed, we saw things just really take off. And from there, we kind of changed a little bit of what Brian's original idea was, and it became, instead of just Belgian style beers, it became like, let's not put a cap on what our creativity can be. Let's brew what we like to drink and kind of see where that creative road takes us. So we from then have done a lot of sour beers, a lot of big stouts, flavorful stouts, lagers, all kind of things. So we kind of will brew sort of, I would say, wherever our brewer's heart takes them, that's what we'll brew.
You mentioned the Sour Asylum series. I've noticed that you guys have been really busy with new stuff coming out during this, and I know that it's hard for some to have that productivity during this time. You guys have been putting new stuff out, it seems like, every week.
Yeah, we've definitely tried to do that. And the what that looks like for us is we have a large we have a big responsibility to fill our sort of, let's say, market pipeline. So we have a core series of beers that are year round, and we have to keep those stocked at our distributor. That way, when any of our accounts order it, it's available. And then in between there, we have some space and room to do these sort of interesting one-offs, and a lot of those never leave the brewery, and a lot of the Sour Asylum releases are that way. So with the pandemic happening, we kind of break our accounts into two categories, as all breweries do, which is on-premise and off-premise. On-premise are your restaurants and bars, and then off-premise, package stores, grocery stores, etc. So our on-premise part of the business just completely went away,
right?
Which gave us a little bit more room to sort of brew some of these interesting one-offs that we were able to just make available at the brewery. So yeah, it's been hugely successful. I sort of manage that online component for us of those beers being purchased online in advance, and a lot of them sell out within 5 minutes, and a lot of people sometimes aren't too happy that they can't get the beer, but we basically make as much as we can, and I wish we could make more. I always try to assure people, trust me, if we could make more, we would, because we've obviously tapped into something, very popular there.
But that's part of the excitement. That's part of that community is the one-off, the special, thing. If you're ahead of the curve and you get it before anybody else, that's got to be part of what, your key role is in building that brand and that community.
Yeah, absolutely. And, the community aspect of our fans and supporters and them just supporting us in ways that were, far beyond our expectations. I mean, some of these sour releases that we would do, we wouldn't know what to expect. We'd say, okay, we're going to put, all these cases of beers available for pre-sale, and we hope they sell out by the time we release it. So let's say we release a beer on a Saturday, and then we're putting it available that Tuesday to start purchasing, and these beers would sell out in 2-3 minutes, and just really exceeding our expectations. And even the people that would maybe be a little bothered they didn't get theirs in time, they would still just say, we love what you guys are doing, and we'll have hopefully better luck next week. And so we've seen a lot of grace given by our customers, I would say, during this time, which has been great. We're all kind of, I think I can speak for every brewery around. We're all just kind of trying to do the best we can and do what we can to, make our staff happy in terms of supporting them, as well as making our customers happy. And I feel we've done a good job of that so far.
One of the really cool things that you guys have done during all of this was the special 6-pack you offered to medical workers, to people in the industry of ukiyo. I thought that was such a cool thing to just try to support people who need it right now.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, that was something one of our employees came up with the idea. I can't remember who it was, but yeah, that was a huge success for us. And I think when it comes to those kind of things, it's really important for that stuff to be organic and to not use it as a moment for a PR push or something. And so, we did that pretty under the radar, honestly. We just promoted on our social channels. We didn't reach out to anybody to tell them we were doing it, and it kind of spread word of mouth. And so, that was a really cool thing we were able to be a part of. We, since then we have a beer that just came out called Bright Day Coming. And it's named after a song by a guy, Mark Sibilia, who's a singer-songwriter who our founder, Brian, got to know years ago. And he wrote a song called Bright Day Coming. And so the beer's named after that, but it's a beer that all the proceeds from the launch are going to the Giving Kitchen, which helps out a lot of our good friends in the hospitality and service industry. So that's kind of another thing we're able to do during this time to give back. And then we are brewing, it'll be released very soon, a beer called Black is Beautiful that you might be familiar with. A lot of breweries are doing the same thing, but it's a beer that is going to the funds from that are getting donated to the Equal Justice Initiative. And so there's a brewery that came up with the idea to all these breweries to brew the same beer called Black is Beautiful and have the proceeds from that beer go to an organization that helps Black people that have been incorrectly and wrongfully marginalized in our society. And so we're super excited about that beer as well. So, we've been able to do 3 different things in these past several months to give back, and that'll just be the beginning. We'll be doing a lot more of that in the future as well.
As you start to look ahead, and I know it feels like it changes on a daily basis, what the rest of 2020 looks like, do you have any idea of kind of what's to come, what's next for Three Taverns?
Well, we do have a second location it's completely ready to go. We're just waiting on the alcohol license from the city of Atlanta, and there's a little bit of an unknown factor with that. But once we get that, we'll be able to open that location, and it's really conducive to a social distancing scenario. We'll have a to-go window where people can walk up, purchase beer in a plastic cup, and then they have a half-acre lawn where they can spread out and enjoy our beer. So we're super excited about that. The interior of the place, whenever that gets open and things go back to normal, I think will really be a very interesting drinking establishment in the city of Atlanta. It's really unlike any other brewery I've ever been to, and any other brewery in the city and in the state. So we're super excited about that. We had plans to open that basically right as this pandemic began. Like I said, just waiting on that alcohol license. So that's been a little bit of a road, a sort of a speed bump along the way. But we're super excited about that. And then we do have some other new beers coming out. We have a version of Night on Ponce called Tango on Ponce, which is with tangerines that we did at our anniversary, and we've done a small batch here at the brewery that's been successful. So we're going to put that out into market soon. That Black is Beautiful beer I mentioned will be coming out. Bright Day Coming just got released. And we'll have a bunch of other stuff that will be able to trickle into the market as we're available as well. Or as we're able as well, sorry. But that's kind of what our plans are for now. Our tasting room is still going to remain closed until we feel that it's safe to open up and have people around our staff. Our tasting room is on the smaller side, so if we socially distance in there, it'd be very limited the amount of people that could fit into that space. So right now we're just going to stick with this patio model as long as we can, and just hope for the best. And none of us can predict the future, obviously. So one day at a time.
Well, fingers crossed on the new location. Fingers crossed on everything getting back to some semblance of normal, at least. We're excited once we're able to do it, once we're able to come out and do a Soccer Down Here show with you guys and talk soccer and have people come together over beer again. I can't wait for that to happen. And that new location has really piqued my interest. That sounds pretty cool.
Yeah, we're super excited, and we'd love to have you guys come out. I know you were at the release of Rowdy and Proud at the brewery, and we appreciate everything you do for soccer. Not only for the team, but just in the Southeast. And I was just talking. I'm trying to think who I was talking with. I was just talking to somebody the other day, and I was just telling them about you. And I was just saying you're kind of this encyclopedia of Georgia soccer and just soccer in general. and every city and MLS team even doesn't have a Jason Longshore in their pocket. And so we're glad we got you. So we appreciate it.
I'm lucky that the team gives me the microphone. I think there's people like that, but I think here the team's been great and just given me an opportunity to go out and do what I do and give me a platform. So I'm very lucky to do it. And with what you guys do, I'm very glad to see all the work you guys do in the community. It's awesome to cultivate a community like you do. I think the best breweries do that. But you guys harness it for good, and that's just awesome to see. So thank you for doing what you do.
Well, thank you. Yeah, that means a lot. Yeah, I appreciate it.
And we'll be seeing you guys soon. Once this SDH Brewery Tour goes from virtual to real, Three Taverns is on the list for one of our stops later this year. Thanks for hanging out with us. We'll be back with another virtual brewery tour coming up very soon.